Hi everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. My name is Esther and I'm doing astrology here. This is a very new thing that I'm doing in English and I'm really excited for it and a touch nervous. But let's get down to it. So today we're going to be talking about the full moon in Aquarius. That's happening at 7 p.m. Central European time. I'm living in Budapest, so please ignore the face of the clock and everything. It's Eastern European time. Okay, so what I think is going to be happening around this time, and it may be visible already due to the shenanigans that's happening between the T-squares, Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter, and also Mars. So it's an interesting mashup of energies that I think is, in conclusion, this is good for us and this is benefiting us, but there's resistance nonetheless, and there is this energy of necessary restructuring or deconstruction of old ideas, behaviors, beliefs, and the pain that comes with adapting to these new structures in our lives, whether it's in inside structures like mental, emotional structures, or outside structures such as institutions and the power of governments and stuff like that. So I'm gonna be dissecting this full moon in Aquarius into small chunks because I just wasn't in the time frame of doing a long video about this and separating every tiny little aspect. But I'm gonna just dissect it into major points, and you're gonna get a whole bunch of adjectives and things that are present at this time. So let's get into it, shall we? So the first thing I want to look at here is that this full moon is having a Mercury cazimi added to it. So Mercury is retrograding back into Leo. It's already in Leo, but it just before the new moon, it was in the heart of the sun. That's what we call a cazimi. And now Mercury is separated. So by the time of the full moon, Mercury has separated from the sun and it's within 1 degree. So it's basically burnt up by the sun. And Mercury is about technology, communication, our mindset, how we translate messages, how we see symbols of the symbolism. Yeah, the symbolism of the word. And there is this necessary re-evaluation when it comes to Mercury, since it's in retrograde. There is this necessary re-evaluation of our Leo energies, our communication style, how upfront we are with ourselves, and how we make ourselves like presentable and benevolent to the public. And since it's still opposing the moon, it's about the opposition between myself and the global self, my individuality and the care for our communities, and how I find a balance between showing myself as being a part of a certain bigger group or community. So this can be in societal things, societal expression of ourselves, and how do we want to fit, or if we want to fit the societal norms. And since Aquarius is present in the discussion, we will say a thing or two about this. And the second thing I want to highlight here is that this full moon and cazimi is squaring Uranus. Uranus is generally about upheaval and sudden burst of energies. It's like a volcano. It has a volcanic energy. And it can bring, with Mercury and the moon, they're having a T-square actually, it can bring sudden bursts of realization about how we want to go on with our lives, how we want to transform the ideas that we already starting to have. We started to have these ideas last new moon in Leo, where there was this just tranquility and just arriving in the feeling of belonging and how we belong to ourselves. And now we're going to have realizations or radical ideas about what is the self presenting, what is the community presenting, and where is this going to be this harmonious energy between me and the other, or me and the community. And also Uranus squaring Mercury, it's going to actually repeat itself in October and then later on. So this is the second square Mercury is having to Uranus. And the thing is that there is going to be a repeating theme. There is already a repeating theme of being understood, wanting to be understood in a way that we have never ever presented ourselves. This need to be understood can be so extreme and so radical, and the new us, the new me, can be so radical that it may shake up things. People may not like it. People may say that I prefer the old version of you, and you have now the choice to say that if I want to stay this person, or if I want to move on to and be someone else that I always wanted to be and I aspire to be. So Mercury and Uranus together can bring out radical ideas about life, about structures, about ourselves and how we delegate ourselves and how we organize our lives and how we communicate ourselves. There's going to be new communication methods, new themes in communication, new subjects, and there's going to be a tad bit of misunderstandings because the eruptive nature of Uranus communing with Mercury, there's going to be technological hiccups, there's going to be communication issues, there's going to be sudden bursts of disputes. And our personality, our new self, is now been put up to the test. If this is stable or not, or if it's something that we want to hold on to, or if it's something that we want to cultivate. The next alignment I want to talk about is Saturn opposing Venus. Yay! Everybody's favorite. So Venus is about the things we love. The things we love, the things we have. It's about sisters, mothers. It's about the body. It's about beauty, the arts. The things that bring us joy, sexuality, relationships, not only romantic relationships, but family relationships, friends, our hobbies, our interests, everything that sparks joy, as in Marie Kondo. And opposing Saturn, well, Saturn is about limits. It's about oppositions. It's about the dichotomy of holding the two polarities at the same time. And in Saturn in Pisces it's like the emotional nature of Saturn and the transcendental nature of Saturn is getting more fluid. It's not those very Saturnian strong boundaries. It's a bit more fluid. So when it comes to Saturn opposing Venus here, while Venus is in Virgo in its fall, it's about the restrictions that we put onto ourselves need to be flexible, or the restrictions that are outside of ourselves need to be adapted in a way that we feel comfortable in it. It can bring restrictions over love, friendships, the looks, how we perceive our body, romantic interest, friendships, artistic impulses. So Saturn can ask Venus to put a hold on things and say, just slow down, please slow down, just right now, slow down. because I need to measure the boundaries of wanting to be serious about my emotional development and my emotional growth, and the need for, I want to express myself in a way that is productive and conclusive to the bigger picture. So there is this maturity for Venus that can come when it's opposing Saturn. This maturity comes from, one, Venus being in its fall with Virgo, home sign to Mercury. Venus in Virgo is about the technical details that brings us beauty, the organization of our lives, the meticulous things, the things that have a purpose, the things that are manual. I mean, something to do with the hands. So Venus in Virgo people, natives, are genuinely very good with their hands. They do a lot of craftsmanship. So Venus in Virgo needs to have a purpose. Beauty needs a purpose. It should be useful. It should be practical. Practical beauty is not something that Saturn in Pisces does easily. And we may be asked to not to choose, but to somehow blend and integrate these two parts of the Venus-Saturn opposition in a way that it can be like Venusian in nature, so it can be easily transformed, because nothing can be transformed when they're solid as a rock. They have to be malleable. And since everything is immutable, double-bodied signs here, Venus also, this asks for adaptability. Sorry for my English. No amount of perfection will earn you love. This is my take on it. Love is not something to be earned by being perfect. Love is something that you are and that you have by nature of existing in this universe. Saturn may try to teach this lesson to you in a way that feels restrictive, and it feels pushy, and it feels just like you're having the brakes on in your car and you're trying to drive and you're trying to enjoy life, and Saturn just puts a brake on it and say, hey, I get that you want to do stuff and want to enjoy stuff, but there is a moment of maturity when you just have to stop being perfectionist. You can't enjoy life while you're meticulously getting into the details of it. You can release, or you can meticulously nitpick everything if it brings you enjoyment, but see how it goes well with the community and your surroundings. So at Saturn and Venus opposition may ask you one of two things. If not, then you should be a nitpicky person who is very particular about their way of wanting to receive or give love. There is a certain way Venus in Virgo wants to be loved, and it's practical. Whether you aim for this practicality and say that, yeah, I've been a very loose person until this moment and I need to integrate my Saturnian side more, or you can go to I've been a very uptight person and I'm gonna be I'm not gonna be this very strict and formulated this time, because I need adaptability, I need flexibility, and I need to just shift my focus from perfectionism a bit closer to actual realism, and say that I am not able to bring anything new into my life until I'm very stiff about how these things should look like and what these things should bring to me. These preconceived notions of should and shouldn't, they just need to drop. And Saturn and Venus will try and make you drop them. The next alignment I want to talk about is Saturn squaring Jupiter. The thing we all waited for in whole August is this thing, which is about deconstruction. Deconstructing limiting beliefs, old self structures, and just reorganizing and dissolving things that are not working anymore. And we know these things are not working because we have dealt with them in July. And the development we did in July with the 2 full moons is Capricorn, was it? Yeah. It was very serious and very intentional about developing something new for ourselves. And this Leo new moon in the beginning of August showed us that, yeah, we can release. This is here and I'm working on it and this is aligning. Well, now it's asking for us to redo a lot of structures in our lives again, because of the new self is not working in the old environment anymore. So thought forms, ideas, beliefs in general, and the polarization of ideas that comes with Saturn, the polarities and the ideas of Jupiter. So Jupiter in nature in Gemini is also hindered. It's not his own sign. It's okay. It's not his own sign. It's hindered. Just like Venus. It's fine. There is this contractive energy when it comes to Jupiter expressing his benevolence. But when it comes to square with Saturn, it's talking about bigger things. Just like Jupiter. Jupiter is big things. It's expansion, it's higher education, it's the spiritual realm, it's the transcendental things that bind us to something higher. And Saturn asks to not to demolish. You don't have to demolish everything. It's not a tower moment. It's just a shake-up of things where you're asked to reevaluate all the things that you were doing up to this point that were not conclusive to the journey you are going on. You just need to sort out things that are very clear that are not working anymore. This is clear. This is not something that you have to go under. These are very clear things that are not working anymore and you know it. Where are the structures in your lives that are just not working anymore? So you can look at the chart, look at your chart and see in your transits where Saturn and Jupiter are. I may or may not be doing a horoscope about this, depending on my time. But just see where Saturn falls, where Pisces is actually in your chart. And Pisces and Gemini in your chart, and you will see that which are the structures that need to be upgraded. This is a deconstruction and the necessary upgrade after. And this can also present itself in the outside world, not just internal development, but also structural in society, in finance, and well, if it's Pisces and Gemini, I would say technology. So prepare for some technological advancement that brings upheaval. The thing is that upgrades always feel like a step back. Somehow we are asked to reevaluate things and redo things in a way that it's easier to go forward with. And this is just another time like that. Well, it will come back, this square will come back in December. This this Saturn-Jupiter square will come back in December and then in 2025. So there's going to be a revisiting of these themes. But right now we are asked, in the midst of everything seemingly falling apart, to distinguish and sort out everything that is not going well, everything that we know that we need to put down. This can be, I don't know, the thing that comes to my mind is addictions. It's a form of behavioral and emotional and mental structure that is outdated, that is a challenge to transform. So people who are now trying to, this is a fertile time to put down addictive behaviors, addictions in general. The pain is present, and you cannot do anything with the pain. Transformation comes with pain and hurt and grief, and grieving the old self and grieving the old way of living. It's just a part of it. That's Saturn. Saturn represents death. But death is a necessary soil for the seed to grow out again. Everything's sprouting, we just don't see it yet, because now we are in the flames of the phoenix and we are just being burned up, and Mercury is also burned up by the sun, and there is just Mars-Jupiter conjunction just separating right now, so they are also really, really fiery energy. We don't see it yet. I mean, it's visible because this major structural reconstruction is the sign of change. This is the change. We just don't see the sprout from the ashes yet. We will have the next new moon in Virgo in September, where we're going to be acknowledging the fact that, yeah, we did the hard work and it was necessary and we're better off with it. So, the next alignment I want to talk about is Mars separating from Jupiter. I did a video in Hungarian about the Mars-Jupiter conjunction. And I have a very, very, very funny story about it. I experienced it myself in a very delicate way. I mean, very well-confined way. I was in a therapy session. Story time. I'm telling you how it represented itself in my life. I was in therapy and we are doing this body-oriented somatic trauma release thing as well. We're doing a lot of things there. And we are working with anger and how the emotional needs can be brought in with anger. And the thing is that there was this part where I was kicking and screaming and grabbing a pillow. I had to take the pillow away from the therapist, like with force, brute force. And she is tiny. She is so strong. But there was this breaking point when I let out a visceral scream. It came from my lower belly. It was visceral, like a baby screaming, an infant screaming. And there was this breaking point. I heard my own voice. I felt my own energy. And I immediately started sobbing uncontrollably. There was this cathartic expression of pain and anger, this explosion of feelings that let space into, open my heart so that emotions can flow in, emotions that I denied or rejected or disowned. This was a really intense emotional thing, and it really nicely represented Jupiter conjoining Mars in my 10th house in Gemini. So the scream itself, in and of itself, the scream is loud, is fiery. There was anger in it, there is Mars, and the scream, the loud voice, the Jupiterian aspect of it really merged together, and there was this, I have this in my 10th house, so it's expressing itself a lot quite lately. And this expression within myself was confined between the boundaries of a therapy session. And there was no confrontation. There was inner conflict. Me wanting to get something I never had, and me achieving the thing and the painful catharsis that came with it. It was just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful representation emotionally and also physically of the Mars Jupiter conjunction in Gemini, my 10th house. It was just beautiful. So tell me about your insights. Tell me about what happened, Jupiter conjoining Mars in your life. I'm really curious about your stories, especially this time around. So I welcome all comments, and please tell me your stories and tell me I'm not alone with this. So Mars Jupiter, they are just separating. They are 2 degrees apart. And this outburst of energy that we're still having, this can be a fuel to the fire. It is actually a fuel to the fire, as Mars is a drive, is a yang energy, is the willpower, if you will. So the big expressions and the loud frustration is now slowly dissipating, but the drive is still there. The drive is still there to talk about and talk out and express and vocalize what's happening in our lives, what's happening to us. And this drive is something that pushes forward a lot of things. Even if it's separating, still I feel that it's still pushing a lot of us towards self-realization and self-actualization in the best way that is conducive to going forward with our lives. So that's a lot of things. That's a lot of aspects, and I haven't talked about anything else yet. So now let's conclude this. We talked about the what's that? The Uranus and full moon T-square, which is bringing sudden outbursts of expressions with the Mercury cazimi. These expressions can be inhibited, self-inhibition, if Leo falls in your 12th house. But there are some restrictive things around this self-expression as it comes, Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus T-square comes with it. So there's going to be a big expression of how we want to live our lives and how we want to present ourselves and how we want to function in this new chapter of our lives. And there is this necessary truth coming out, our truth, that I'm not that person anymore that I was like 2 months ago. 2 months is a very short time, but a lot of things can change, especially with these alignments. I'm not that person anymore. And it's okay not to be the person anymore. I fixed my surroundings last month, and now I have to fix my inner environment to go forward with this. And now we are fixing the inner environment, and that's all that's happening. This necessary reconstruction or deconstruction is just picking apart the things that don't belong in us anymore. Don't belong into our relationships, don't belong into our self-talk, don't belong to the things that we love or in our daily routine, or you name it. If you don't know your chart, hit me up, get a reading with me, and I'll explain everything to you. The deconstruction comes with pain. Letting go of our old self, or even just part of our old self, comes with grief. You cannot let go without experiencing grief. You cannot experience joy without experiencing losing something that was bringing you joy. It's hard to let go the version of ourselves that we grew to love because it served a purpose. But the purpose is gone now. It's nowhere to be found. It's only in our memories. We can't function from the old version of ourselves in this new chapter of our lives. And it calls for reassessment, deconstruction, and rebuilding things from within, from the new perspective that we are getting. Because we are getting new perspective, we got the major blueprint of this new experience in the new moon in Leo. At least I got. It was serenity, it was compassion, it was abundance, it was generosity, it was love. And I also wrote a poem about this, like a short, tiny poem, New Moon in Leo, what what the New Moon in Leo meant for me. It was, may I love the people I care about with the fiercest love. And this fierceness and this quiet standing firm that we had in the new moon in Leo, this is the feeling, the emotional blueprint for what we want to go towards to. The emotional blueprint, or the physical blueprint, even if you are building something in the material plane, the blueprint has arrived. Now we need to transform everything inside so it can be easier to move forward, so it can flow. Because if we had to climb onto the rubbles, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of unnecessary frustration. And with this, we get the frustration. I know you get the frustration. Because if you want to push forward from force, from the last version of yourself, it's not going to be working. It's not going to be working anymore. You need to cultivate the self that you're feeling, that you're growing inside. You see now the self that you're growing inside, and you see now what patterns are helping them to grow, or what patterns are just outdated. The detachment comes from cultivating that sprout under the ashes that comes from after the wildfire that we just have right now. It's about letting go of the old. Weird, this is a full moon. Full moons are about, normally it's about presenting something and then going with it, but this is a letting go full moon with the Mercury retrograde and the Venus Saturn opposition. This is a letting go of all structures new moon. And it's hard. No one said it's easy. It's hard. But if you try to brute force it, it's going to be even harder. So my advice for this full moon is that it's okay to just chill and wait out the storm. The things you want in your life are already there inside. If you try to push it in the old ways, it's not going to happen. You can, and you are allowed to sit in silence with this. You don't have to act right now. You don't have to push things. You don't have to force things. You are allowed to sit with this and just integrate it, because there's a lot of things that are happening right now. And this full moon is asking you to sit with it. Just sit it out. Sit it out and contemplate. The force you're looking for, for people who don't feel that they have the power to do anything right now, they feel hopeless, helpless, powerless. My advice to you guys is, it's okay. It comes with grief. You cannot do anything about grief. I think helplessness is one of the most destructive emotions that you can feel. But most of the time, what I observed in myself and in the people I love is that it's almost every time, whether if it's depending on the person, but whether it's shame or grief that's behind it, that's even worse to bear. Grief is something that you cannot force. Grief is a process of its own. And grief in and of itself is not hindering you in anything. It can run in the background. But be mindful that it runs in the background, and be compassionate with yourself and with others in your life. Because you just may not know what grief they are carrying around. Even if it's not acknowledged consciously, there is grief in everyone. Everyone is hurting in some way, shape or form. And the sun in Leo still wants you to be compassionate. And the moon in Aquarius wants you to be compassionate. So be compassionate to yourself, with your own emotional process, with the things that you're shedding and the things that you're letting go. Thank them for bringing you up to this point in your life, and allow them to go and fade. And grieve them. Grieve the old version of you. But allow the grief. Because no amount of denying, disowning, rejecting, or running away will solve the problem that you're creating by denying your pain. Face the pain. This is the time to face the pain. This is exactly the time to face the pain. And the sooner you face it, the quicker it goes away. The only way out is through. This is a hard lesson that we each need to learn. Allowing things we haven't allowed for ourselves, for the sake of confining ourselves into boxes, or giving ourselves labels. You are allowed to strip the labels away if you don't fit anymore. And you're allowed to express yourself in a way that feels comfortable, that feels authentic, and that feels genuinely you. And if you don't find the you, well, here's the opportunity to deconstruct everything that is not belonging. This is a time to sort out the shaft from the seed. Yes. Do I want to add anything else? Shall we pull a card today? Yeah, shall we pull? We should pull a card. Yeah, let's pull a card. What's in the chart? I'm gonna buy a stand for my phone because it feels overshake on my desk. What do I want to say? Is there anything else? Well, Venus in Virgo and a sun closing to the house castle. I would say, if you need, go make a list. Go have a plan. Go do your Virgo season cleanup. I do a Virgo season cleanup, but I'm a Virgo dominant. My rising is in Virgo and my Venus in my Jupiter, so I know a thing or two about Venus and Jupiter being in their detriment and the expression of it in the personality. You can ask me anything about it. No, I'm just joking. But you can make a list if that feels right for you. If you feel that there is way too many things and you can get lost in the sauce, just make a list. But only 3 things. I dare you. Write a list every day with the 3 things that you want to change or the 3 things that you need to do. It's a very short to-do list. I guarantee you will feel successful after it. It's 3 things is no biggie. Start with the hardest. I guarantee you're gonna value yourself in a different way. And you will say that, oh, why did I stop? Why did I procrastinate? And we procrastinate because we don't want to allow our feelings to be felt. Stop procrastinating. Feel your feelings. Feel your painful, hard feelings. And allow them to be felt. And allow them to express themselves. Allow the grief, allow the joy, allow the hurt, the anger, the disgust. Allow everything. Confine them in a safe space so you don't bleed onto others, but express. Just express. And if the expression looks like sitting silently under the full moon and observing yourself, then go for it. And if the expression looks like having a talk with your friend or having a group setting where you can heal together, just allow it. This is the time. This is the time to heal the feelings. Okay. I shuffle the cards. You saw it. Well, you. Let's see what comes through. Oh, the Hermit. Oh, shit. The Hermit. Yeah, the Hermit is a Virgo card. And then the word on the bottom of the deck. Wow, upside down. The Hermit. It's a very Venus in Virgo thing, actually. The Hermit is someone who goes back into his cave to contemplate life and then brings down the knowledge. Capital K, knowledge. The knowledge. He has a star in the lantern, you can see. And he's the bringer of knowledge, intuition, and higher things. This is a Jupiter, Venus in Virgo thing, the Hermit. I think it's asking us to not confine ourselves into the old structure we had. You don't have to go back to the old structure. You don't have to go back to the old thought forms. You can bring to the people the new you. You can bring the knowledge that you've been through, this and this and that, and you can show the way to others who are on the same path or similar path, or just in general, show where you're coming from. Show people that you've been through hell. It makes you more relatable. And it makes you less pretentious, and it makes you more authentic. Show people that you've been through hell and you learned the lesson from it. Because there is a lesson to be learned from it. And when you do, well, the word is yours. There is a wish fulfillment here. There is a clear path here. And there is abundance and manifestation in here. So just be you, and don't be afraid to be perceived or be hurt. Be vulnerable. Bring your all and whole self to the table. That's what I had for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will welcome you back. Sorry for my English. I will welcome you back in the next video. And until then, take care. Love you. Bye.